She was standing right there, in plain sight, and yet somehow nobody saw her at all. That is the kind of thing that breaks your heart quietly. Not all at once, but slowly, like a crack spreading through glass. It was a Tuesday afternoon. The kind of afternoon that feels heavy before it even begins. The sky outside was gray, the supermarket lights were too bright, and the checkout lines were long. People were tired. People were distracted. People were staring at their phones, tapping their feet, checking their watches. Nobody was paying attention, but two little girls were. Marcus had been a single dad for 3 years now. 3 years of school lunches packed at 6 in the morning. 3 years of bedtime. Stories read twice because one twin always fell asleep before the other. 3 years of figuring it out, one day at a time, with nobody to hand the baton to. His daughters, Lily and Sophie, were 7 years old. Identical in almost every way. Same dark hair pulled into ponytails. Same purple shirts, because they had insisted on matching that morning. Same wide, serious brown eyes that missed nothing. Absolutely nothing. Marcus always said that his girls saw the world differently than most people. They noticed things, small things. A bird sitting alone on a wire, a dog waiting too long outside a store, a classmate who sat by themselves at lunch. He had never quite understood where that came from, but he was grateful for it every single day. They arrived at the grocery store at 4:30. Marcus had a list: milk, bread, apples, pasta, and something for dinner that wouldn't take longer than 30 minutes to cook. He was tired. His shift had run long. His shoulders ached. Lily held one side of the cart. Sophie held the other. They moved through the aisles like a small, focused team, and then they reached the checkout line. That is when Sophie stopped walking. She tugged on her father's sleeve so gently, so carefully that Marcus almost didn't feel it. "Daddy," she whispered, "look." He looked up from his phone, and that is when he saw her. The woman was standing at the end of the checkout counter, not in line, just near it. She was older, maybe in her late 60s. Silver hair tucked beneath a dark blue hat. A small basket hooked over one arm. Inside it, just a few things. A can of soup, a small loaf of bread, a single orange. She wasn't doing anything wrong. She wasn't causing any trouble. She was simply standing there, waiting for a small gap in the line, trying to find a quiet moment to step forward. But nobody made room. Not the man in the business suit who was too busy typing an email. Not the young woman with the overflowing cart who kept edging forward without looking. Not the cashier who was working fast, head down, eyes on the conveyor belt. The woman tried twice to step into line. Both times, someone moved ahead of her without even glancing her way. She didn't say a word. She just stepped back, adjusted her basket, and waited again. Her eyes were calm, but her hands were gripping that basket a little too tightly. Now here is the part that will stay with you, because most people saw exactly what Marcus saw, and most people looked away again. It was a busy afternoon. Everyone had somewhere to be. Everyone had their own problems. But Lily and Sophie were not most people. Before Marcus could say a single word, Lily let go of the cart. She walked up to the woman. She stood right beside her, and in a voice that was small but completely certain, she said, "Excuse me, you were here before us. Would you like to go in front?" The woman blinked. She looked down at the little girl. Her lips parted slightly, like she was searching for words that had gone somewhere unexpected. "Oh, sweetheart," she said softly. "That is very kind. But I don't want to be any trouble." Sophie had already moved to stand beside her sister. "You're not trouble," Sophie said, as if this were simply a fact. "You've been waiting a long time, we saw." Something in the air shifted. Marcus felt it. The man in the business suit looked up from his phone. The young woman with the cart glanced over. The cashier paused for just a moment. Everyone was watching now. The woman's name was Ruth. They would learn that a little later. She stepped forward into the line, guided gently by two small girls who walked on either side of her like tiny, determined escorts. She set her basket on the counter. Her hands were still shaking slightly, but her eyes had changed. There was something in them now that hadn't been there before. Marcus stepped up behind her. He didn't say much. He didn't need to. Ruth turned to him after a moment. "You have remarkable children," she said quietly. He nodded. "I know." And then she laughed. A real laugh. The kind that comes from somewhere deep and honest. And Marcus laughed too. And then Lily and Sophie laughed, though they weren't entirely sure why, which made everyone laugh a little more. The cashier smiled for the first time all afternoon. But here is the part that Marcus would think about for a long time afterwards. As Ruth gathered her bag and turned to leave, she paused. She looked down at both girls, and she said something that was so simple, so quiet, that you might almost miss it. "I used to shop here with my husband," she said. "Every Tuesday. For 41 years. He passed away last spring. This is the first time I've come back. She wasn't looking for sympathy. She said it the way you say something true, plainly, gently. Lily reached up and took her hand for just a moment. Just one small moment. She didn't say anything. She didn't need to. Ruth smiled the way people smile, when something unexpected reaches them in a place they had forgotten was still open. Then she thanked them, and she walked away through the automatic doors, out into the gray afternoon, carrying her small bag with the soup and the bread and the single orange. Marcus stood there for a moment longer than he needed to. He thought about all the Tuesdays he had rushed through this same store, all the times he had stared at his phone, all the times he had looked without really seeing. He thought about how easy it is to be invisible, not because people are cruel, but because people are tired and busy and lost in their own quiet struggles. And then he looked at his daughters. Lily was already back at the cart, checking whether they had remembered the pasta. Sophie was carefully placing the apples into a bag, counting them under her breath. Just two little girls, in matching purple shirts, doing the next ordinary thing. But the man in the business suit had put his phone in his pocket. The young woman with the cart was holding the door for someone else on her way out. And the cashier, the one who had been working with her head down all afternoon. She was looking up now. Some days the world shifts because of something enormous. And some days it shifts because two 7-year-old girls in a grocery store simply decided to see someone who everyone else had chosen not to see. That was all. That was everything. If this story touched something in you, hold on to that feeling. Because that feeling, that is the part of you that still believes in people. And it is worth listening to.